Well, it's time for final feelings here as we get ready for Mississippi State and the Dogs. It's going to be a night game. A lot of discussion this week of really the Tennessee game, and then when people realized Georgia was playing on the road, the last time they played on the road was at Missouri. So some trepidation there from Georgia folks. This is what they do. It's nothing new. It's full blown Larry Munson, and it's natural to be nervous. I do think that you're talking about a situation that while similar in a way to Mississippi State, to Missouri. Mississippi State's situation coming in this thing is different. Both of them didn't play well the week before they played Georgia, or were not playing well before they played Georgia. I mean, State has not played well the last 3 weeks, and I think they do have a pretty good defense. I think the difference right now is, unless some things change, Georgia's healthier than they've been in a long time. And this is the game where they really started getting injuries, the Missouri game that I'm comparing it to. So I'm skeptical of that. I think also the other issue, at least with Mizzou, they were trying to be, um, you know, hit off both sides of the ball, for lack of a better term. They are basically a throwing team. They don't really try to run the ball, and I think when you're one dimensional against Georgia, that becomes problematic. I mean, Georgia's a 16, 16 and a half, 17 and a half point favorite somewhere in that ballpark. When I'm recording this, it's about 16 and a half. So these things tend to break late. It's not that loud at State. The noise is relatively consistent. Some folks have also compared the way that Kent State played to the way that on offense to the way that the way that State plays. We'll see. I mean, I know Will Rogers is a really good quarterback, and if you're Kirby and them, if you have I think you do have to totally stop the run, right? And then you say, okay, well, can you stop the run? And when you have so many DBs and fast guys on the field, it seems like the answer to that is yes. Um, if you can do that, it's going to be hard for State to win the game. They don't have players who are as good as Georgia, and that's just we're talking about State's offense against Georgia's defense. Georgia has, and I think last week shows, Georgia has one of the best defenses in the country, if not the best. And the Missouri game, if you do the same things that you did there, which happened at Florida too, if you turn the ball over, yeah, you could be in a real ball game. But it's so unlikely without those turnovers. I do not see Mississippi State going up and down the field on Georgia. I don't see that because I didn't see it last week against Tennessee, and I didn't see it against Oregon. There's just so much that Georgia does well that's going to combat what State does well. Um, and that Georgia's the better team matters a lot. But again, the caveat is you're playing on the road and you're playing, in colder weather. How much will that matter? State, in terms of defending the run, they're really not. Mississippi State's defense is not at all bad. Um, it's a team that you know against all told they have a top 50 defense against the run. Like most SEC teams, they do fine. They allow about 150 yards a game rushing. Well, the problem for that is that's on the bottom half of nationally. But the problem is when you face Georgia, those numbers are going to go up. Just like this past week, Georgia's numbers went up because of playing Tennessee. Okay, went up in a bad way. Still, Georgia's the number 5 total defense, the number 3 total offense. The scoring per game went down slightly because Georgia only scored 27 because they shut it down basically. But they're scoring 40 points a game and giving up. Let me look. Not many. 11. So they still have a 4-score margin of error there that they've got built in, the Dogs. And I think we're talking about a little bit two different things. First of all, State has the capability to pull upsets, but when they played the best teams they played on the road. And with Texas A&M is not a good team. They thrashed Texas A&M. Auburn is not a good team. They went into overtime with Auburn. So for me, they're a little too up and down for my liking. I like consistency. I like points. I like keeping other teams out of the end zone. These are all things that, State's been a little bit up and down, but defensively, they've not been exploded on yet. I mean, like no one's come in and just scored, four. I don't think anyone's come in and scored more than 35 on State. That's not bad. I mean, there's plenty of teams. Ole Miss, uh, there's good teams. Alabama, Tennessee, Ole Miss. These teams have all had some real points put up on them. You're not seeing that with State. I mean, they allowed 23, 17, 31, 14, 24, 17, 17. Excuse me, 27, 17, and then 27, 30, and then 33. Now, I don't think Auburn scored in overtime, as I recall. I can't remember, to be frank. But they did go into overtime in that game. But that's not like there's no red flag there. Oh, they scored 30, LSU scored 30 or Alabama scored 30 or Auburn scored 33. It's a little bit of a red flag that Auburn scored 33, truthfully. But you know, I don't think this is a horrible State team. I just think that they're just not um they're not great, and they're going to have a hard time beating the Georgia Bulldogs as the current Georgia Bulldogs stand. Now, the last time we were over there was 2018, 2010, excuse me. It's been a long time since Georgia traveled to Starkville. So I was there in '05 and 10, and we've not been over there since. It's just not right, frankly. This game should be played more often than it is. But these two teams avoid each other just because of being in different divisions, and that's going to change in the near future. Hey, we're running out of spots for our event with Kelee Ringo. You get 3 signatures, a photograph, and a book. You're not going to get a better value than this. The problem is, we're running out. The tickets are at this stage not even in the dozens. So get on it now because we've had 2 people get it on today. It's not even 9 o'clock on Thursday, and we're rolling in pretty good. I don't know if we'll have these soon. So sign up now. It's on the 20th at Red Zone, our friends at Red Zone in Athens at 5:30. At 5:30. So not, you can come after that, but you can't come a lot after that. And you come after that, you're going to be in line. So this is an extremely limited event. Kelee has been great about accommodating us, and we want to be great about accommodating him. We're not going to be talking forever. We're going to do our thing. We're going to exchange pleasantries, and then we're going to keep it moving. We're not going to talk about grandma's cookie recipe, okay? And listen, my cookie recipe beats anybody's. Period. So don't bring that in here. My cookie is fierce. I am locally known and famous for the cooking of cookies. And I'm not lying there. That's a real thing. Georgia's sports information staff, I think, knows what I'm talking about. Although I don't do it as often as I should. Baking is not always easy. And listen, anyway, point is, I think that it's the time. It's not the baking. I know how to do the cookies. This is going to be challenging for State. I think the other thing is we're late in the year. This is a 6-3 State team, 3 losses in league play, the wobbly game against Auburn. I do think if you're Georgia, you don't want to give them any sort of momentum or capability or hype or whatever you want to call it. When did hype start becoming a word that meant something other than what it means? That shows that you're getting old, number one. Number two, like Gucci. That's been around for a while, but when I start saying something's Gucci, y'all need to kind of chime in and be like, "Nah, that's not you," because it's not. But I think to me, this Georgia team, these back-to-back emotional games, back-to-back physical games. Georgia, to me, is one of the few teams that can pull that off because of their depth. Georgia can do it. Ohio State, I think Clemson in the ACC can do that. and you see that happen with them from time to time. But now we're in the non-emotional game. I personally think it helps that Georgia's playing at night. I know that sounds backwards, but I think it helps. I think they feed off crowd noise. They like it. Um, they just made mistakes at Missouri. They had turnovers. I think they played okay, but particularly in the second half. Every game's not going to be the Missouri game. We don't have to talk about that constantly, but it is the bellwether or the barometer lately because that's the most recent road game they played. Think about it. Since we returned from Middle Earth, Georgia has curb stomped Auburn, didn't allow Vanderbilt to score, blew the Gators out, and beat the number one team in the country and only the third number one versus number one. They've not been the only team that's been within a score of them in the fourth quarter. Now that might be wrong. Is that wrong? The only team that ended with a score within a score was Kent State. That's it. So was Mizzou. That's it. Middle Earth. So I don't know, y'all. I mean, I am skeptical that State can stay in this thing. I think Georgia, much like Tennessee, would love to jump on people and kind of and choke them out, but uh, you, you got to go do it. You got to go do it, and that's easier said than done. That's easier said than done. And we'll see what Georgia has to say, about this situation when they get out there. This is going to be about execution, running the ball. I think the Dogs are too good. That's what I think.